Hello everyone, it is Jean, and I'm back with some gems. So today I wanted to show you what I've been working on. I watched a few videos because I love paper and I wanted to make some different paper for my journals, for journal covers. And so I was looking at videos on how to do faux handmade papers, and there's a lot of different ideas out there on how to do it. I personally am always going to try to find the easiest method for you, and also the easiest method for myself if I can, because number one, especially now, we're all on a budget, and number two, we just want things to be fun and easy, right? So let me show you what I did. For this project, I used plain copy paper. So just a light sheet of paper. It doesn't have to be heavyweight. You can pull it out of a notebook, whatever you have. I would advise trying to get plain as opposed to anything with lines in it, because a lot of times the lines on lined paper will bleed. So you're going to be using some wet medium on top of this, and it will bleed. So I'll show you some examples of that. So the first page I made, I took a white piece of copy paper. Now, when I'm going to use this in a project, which I'll show you in a little bit, you would want to make sure your ends are even and flat. I'm not going to iron this. I'm just going to try to use it organically like it is. But if you do have some curling corners, just kind of bend them down. You can put them under heavy books if you get that. So your process is basically, for this one, I took a piece of copy paper and a small stamp that had leaves on it. So you can see that here. And after that, I added on a wash of white glue and water. Now, I use a more runny consistency. What I would suggest is that you kind of like find what's good for you. You can use, for example, 2/3 glue, white glue, like Elmer's glue, and 1/3 water. And that makes a pretty good consistency. If you want it any runnier, just add your more water to it. So after you put that wash of glue on top, and you want to put it pretty thickly, you will have a surface then that things are going to stick to, right? So in that case, you can start adding different things that will make your page more interesting and look organic and like handmade paper. Now, you might not think this necessarily looks like handmade paper or like a botanical paper, but it's something that's really different than what we normally use, right? So I put on this one, I had some dried flowers. These are the dried flowers, but the dried flowers have a center in them, so they are hard. You need to use things that are flat. So even if you go out in your yard and you pull a few leaves, like clover leaves, or some dried things off your flowers, this is a great time of year to do that. And just press those under a book or in a book, you'll have more botanicals to use. So that's what I did. I added those little flowers, and obviously the flowers are artificially colored, so some of them did bleed. I also added pieces of a used tea bag. So I saved the tea bag that I have, and I laid it down on top of that gluey surface, and it just sticks. And then the last thing I used was a little bit of gold leaf. So I love this page. I think right here it may have ripped, but I put another piece of well, let me say, after I did all that, I put a piece of 1-ply white napkin on top. So if you don't know what that is, if you take a napkin apart, there's a ply at the bottom, depending on if you have a 3-ply or a 2-ply. So most of these are cheap napkins, so they're only 2-ply. So I took the white part, laid it down over, pressed it down, and then I did another wash of glue on top. And I did that quite generously, and so it causes the napkin to smooth out, and the wrinkles are so nice, and you get this amazing piece of paper. So you let it dry naturally. I have not tried using a heat gun on it because I'm not that anxious that I have to use it right away. But that is an example of one of the pieces. Now, the next piece I tried, I used the same white copy paper, same gold leaf, stamping. I used some of those flowers. I crushed them a little bit more this time. And I put the white over it, and I thought, let me try it with the colored one. So I do like this. It's probably not my favorite, but what I always tell you is that if you don't like something in its larger form, most likely when you cut it down to use it in your projects where you're going to make either tags out of this or something else, you usually like the cut down version better. Then I decided to take another piece of copy paper. This time I laid down some larger pieces of tea bag, and then I sprinkled it with some herbs. So I got some things like rosemary and whatever I could find in the spice cabinet that was a little bit larger or had leaves or something to it. A lot of that stuff's so crushed, but sometimes you get parsley that's a little bit bigger or what have you. So I laid that down again on some more of those little flowers, and then I put my white 1-layer napkin over the top and the wash of glue again, and everything just stuck together, and I laid it out to dry. So I really love this one. If I had done anything differently at all with this one, I would have left off the tea bag, but it still looks really nice. So then I decided to try some tea dyed paper, and you're doing the same thing. You're laying down a piece of tea stain paper and you're giving it a wash of glue. You're adding your herbs and your tea bag on top. You're laying 1-ply napkin on top of that, and then you are putting another layer of glue to glue down that top napkin. And then once you're satisfied with it, because you have to sometimes work around air bubbles and things like that, you can lay it out to dry. Now, this was an old book sheet, and so it has something on the back. That doesn't bother me because I may use this one as a journal cover. The next one I did was this one. This one has some stamping in it, and I had some dried flowers that were purple. Well, after I did the glue, well, first the stamping, the glue, adding these pieces, and then another wash of glue and napkin on top, I noticed that the flowers were bleeding, because a lot of the dried flowers that I got, I believe I picked them up from Temu. A lot of the baby's breath and things like that, they're dyed. So that's why you see this dye coming out. So I decided, well, why not spray some purple on it? So, oh, and I forgot, I put some pieces of mulberry paper in here. And I think I really liked the chips of the purple, but then I sprayed the dye on it and I wasn't as happy with it. So here it is on a little bit darker piece. This was just a remnant I had, and you can still see that the flowers are bleeding, but you can see the mulberry paper better. So the last one I did was this one, and I really like this one. It's very, very textural. I took this artificial flower and I cut the petals, and I also added gold leaf, and that's the only thing I added to this one. And I went ahead and covered it and glued it, and then I did use some spray on this, and I love how the spray picked up the gold leaf. So this is really pretty. This is a very textural piece. This is the back of it. So you could definitely cut this down and use it as a book cover if you wanted to, journal cover, whatever you wanted to do with it. Now, my favorite, or pretty much favorite, I would say, is this piece. Now, what I did with those little flowers is I crushed them so that they would be, they wouldn't be so dimensional. Stamped little butterflies on here first, put my wash of glue down, sprinkled on my flowers, and put on some gold leaf, and I think that's all that's in this one, and then put my napkin over it, and I got a really pretty piece for a journal, or that's what I plan on using it for, because the inside is nice. You don't have to cover the inside if you don't want to. And this one was on tea dye paper, as you can see, but I took my distressed ink with the sponge applicator, and I just went around and I just darkened it, because you see all these ridges? That brown from the distressed ink just goes so nicely inside those colors. or I'm sorry, those ridges. So I really love this piece, and we'll make a journal out of it. And what I'm going to do to make a journal out of this is I'm going to put a signature of probably maybe 10 pages, and then I'll bind it with some string, and then there you go. You have a really nice journal. So if you need to know how to put signatures in and things like that, just leave me a comment. I'll be delighted to help you. So today I was going to try some different paper. I really wanted to try some book paper, but I'm not sure if I have any tea dyed, and I don't think I do. If I do, it's not what I want to use. So here is my Reader's Digest. So let me just pull some pages out of it. Reader's Digest is like the best book to get book pages out of. I don't know why, with exception of a dictionary. Dictionaries are good too. But this Reader's Digest has been around for a little bit, so you do get some patina on it, which is nice. If you don't want to tea dye it, it still has that yellowing even around the edges. So I'm going to just tear out 3 pieces for now. And when you see this online, it will insist that you use plastic underneath of it. I didn't use any plastic underneath mine because I have this mat. I also have a glass mat underneath. So if you don't want to use plastic underneath of your book page, you don't have to. You know, as long as you can lift it up and move it, you're good. And you have to have a place that you plan to put it as well, or you will have a mess all over your room if you don't put it in the right place. Now, all I do is I just kind of pour this out a little bit over the page, and then you can take anything that you have. I have a credit card here. Sometimes I tend to hoard my paintbrushes because I don't want to use them for things like this and get them all gluey and ugly. And it happens, believe me. And then they're very hard to soak out. So I'm going to use just this credit card and get as much of this up to the edges as I can. So I hope everybody's doing good today. I was really, really happy that you all commented so much on my last video where I used the recycled cardboard to make some things. And I was working on my little fold-out book, and I should have that done soon. And you guys can see then what I did with that. So I'm just going to wipe this credit card off really quick. Now, I didn't stamp on this one first, and that's because I feel like with the text, a stamping would make it look a little bit busy. So this is leftover tea from emptying my tea bags. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this on. And then I have my herbs, which I accidentally dropped tea in. So it's going to be a mixed bag here. And you don't see what I do? I don't even pay attention. And you don't even have to use that much. I just think that any amount, it looks nice. I'm going to see if I can get some of these flowers to use. Oh, the box cracked. Wonder how that happened. I don't know. So, like I was saying with these flowers, they have a center in them that makes them really hard to press down. So I'm just kind of rolling them in between my fingers so I can get that core to flatten out. Yesterday, I was even taking like the hammer, trying to hammer it flat. I like these little orange ones too, to try to keep like a similar color theme here. So let me put some over here just to mix in with this green. The red's pretty, but it will probably bleed. So orange may too, I don't know. Okay, that looks like plenty. So I have a piece of a white paper napkin right here, And I am just going to, let me lay it down like this so we can still use some of the excess. And you can do this part with your hands. And if your paper underneath is not too sopping wet, which I try not to get mine too crazy because I don't want, is that, okay, go over here. Because I don't want it to be, you know, a total wreck. So let me get my paintbrush, which I've been soaking for a little bit. So hopefully it'll be good enough to do this with a paintbrush. Now, with the paintbrush, you just kind of want to lightly go over it. I'm going to pour some of this glue back on. And if you make this in a little jar, that's nice too. This is just what I happen to have on hand. So you don't have to do it like I do it. Whatever form of the gluing process or applying the glue that you feel is easier or better, go for it. Now, what you're probably noticing with this is that it has an awful lot of air bubbles. And that does happen sometimes. And it can happen for a couple reasons. It could happen because some of the things that you've used to lay down onto your page are two-dimensional, meaning they stick up too much and they don't lay flat. And so around them, you will get air bubbles. So usually what I try to do is I do this little tamping where I see any of the air bubbles, because I don't want to have the bubbles on my final project, you know, my final look. So I've not done a book page before. I haven't seen anyone else do a book page, so I don't know what this is going to look like, but I think it should look fine. I really wish there was another process for really making this stuff stick. And the only thing that I can think of, let me see if I can find something real quick, is to take a plastic bag, put it on top, and really just smooth it out. And you know, pull it off easy. Don't be like yanking it off. And I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but it seems to me that smoothing it out with a little bit of pressure really gets that napkin in there, and it doesn't make the napkin tear. So if I was going to use like a roller or something on top of this, then I would worry that I would have some things tear. But as it is right now, I think the only thing we have is maybe an air bubble right here. If you do get air bubbles that you can't get to go down, another thing you can do is just take a needle or something with a sharp tip and kind of pop them and put some air under there, and they should go down. Just like I just did there with that one, and I just used my pokey tool. Just be careful, because the napkin is saturated with the glue. It's going to rip easy. So I'll actually take this napkin. Let me poke here. I'm going to take this again, but on the other side, and just kind of smooth this out. Hey guys, the way I figure it, the messier, the better. Yes, we made mess today. But you'll be really pleased with the outcome of your paper creations. Even if they are a little on the lumpy side, if you're anyone like me, when it comes to texture, I love texture. It doesn't even have to be, you know, it can be a visual texture or it can be a physical texture. But I love running my hands across things that are textural in my projects, because I think it just adds so much more of a handmade feel to it. So, as you can see, I have glue everywhere now. But, so I took the lazy man's way out, and I did not put this on plastic. If you want to put it on plastic, and you don't mind, or if you want to do it like I do, and you don't mind, you know, wiping down your desk afterwards, then you and I can be friends, because we take the shortcut. Okay, so this one's pretty much as good as it's going to get. And then when it dries, we will be able to see some of the lines. We'll be able to see our herbs that we added, and just really a neat piece of paper. Now I want to show you just on the copy paper. However, I am going to cut this into a smaller piece because my desk right now is horrendous and I want to make sure you can see this. So I am going to take, and if you decide that you're going to stamp something, make sure you use an archival ink or an ink that does not it's not water-based, so you don't have it coming off of your, it won't come off when you saturate it with glue, is basically what I'm saying. See what I'm saying? You see, you got it, you know what I'm saying. Okay. I don't know why, but I can't get through a video without singing something. Now I'm going to turn this the other way because the stamp was upside down. And I'm trying to say, what does that say? Nothing seek, nothing find. Oh, okay. Nothing seek, nothing find. So if you don't look for it, you're not going to find it. Okay, let's put the glue on. I'm going to use my brush this time because I don't think the credit card smoothed it out as much. And when you're pouring it on like that, sometimes you end up getting more than what you really need, but that's okay. The gluier, the more you can stick to it. Stick-to-itiveness. So as you can see, the StazOn ink that I stamped with is not moving. It's not smearing. It's not doing anything because it's a StazOn ink and it doesn't move. It's permanent. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to be very, very light-handed in adding some of these pieces, because if you accidentally put a whole bunch in one place, a lot of times what happens is that's when you're getting those air bubbles. And I have only done this one other time with the pieces that I showed you, so I don't really have any reference for you other than what I've done before. So I'm going to try this where I don't have as much, I like that yellow one, as much of this piled up into one place. You know, I don't want it to be causing me to get the air bubbles this time. Okay, center cannot go on there because it's too hard. So I just want the little petals. So this yellow and herb one will look nice if the petals will come off my fingers. And we will, I'm going to add, kind of wanted to add some pink, so let's see. We'll add some pink here and there. But it's nice too when you can get a couple things out of your garden, or I saw one earlier even where someone had dried a daffodil, and I've never tried to dry a daffodil because they're such a succulent flower, meaning they have such moisture in them anyway. I would think it would be hard to dry one. I guess you would just press it or leave it hang upside down for a long time. I think I have somewhere here at my mom's some rose hips or rose petals and lavender, and I think that would make some really beautiful pages. Okay, so I added some different colors to this, and I'm going to see if I can use this piece of napkin rather than pulling out a whole new one. And if the napkin looks kind of scruffy, it's okay, because you're not going to notice it at all once you put it on here, because it's going to flatten out. Even if you do more than one layer of napkin, it's okay too. So let me just lay this piece right here. Am I getting it? Let's see if it's going to meet there. I may have to tear a tiny piece from the bottom to go right in that middle, like this. Okay, so guys, there's this thing. I get to talking on my videos about stories and, you know, and about how-tos and my experiences and all this stuff. And before I know it, it's been an hour. And so what I've been doing because a lot of people don't want to watch videos that are that long, and I don't blame them unless it's like something that I'm super interested in. I don't usually watch long videos either. I might skip to the end to see the final process, but what I'm trying to say is I have been speeding up my videos a little bit. So when I load them, and if you're okay with that, I will continue. But I just wanted to mention it because one of my viewers was like, I thought something was wrong with my computer because you were talking so fast. And I'm like, no, I'm making my videos too long, so I'm trying to shorten them. And she was like, oh, okay. So just so you know, that may happen. Okay, so we have two pieces that I am going to let dry. And I've already showed you the finished pieces. So now you know less is more when it comes to adding things on your page, because if it gets piled up and it causes that more dimension, the more dimension you have, the more chance you're going to have air bubbles. So there is a way, and I'll just show you this real quick while I move it, as I'm moving this. I'm going to put it over here to dry. There is a way that you can fix that problem if you create a page that has a lot of air bubbles, because this one did. And so what I did to like kind of hide the fact of the air bubbles, like you can still see some even right over here, is I took that distress ink and went over it several times so that I was hiding some of those areas, but at the same time it was highlighting the grooves and the different textural pieces on there. So let me know in the comments if you've tried this and what suggestions you have for different things that you could make your papers with that I haven't used today. So I use tea, herbs, fake flowers, gold leaf, pre-stamping the page, and I think that's it. Fake flowers too. So what I mean by that are these kind of fake flowers and then these dried flowers. These are like little tiny dried straw flowers or something. So if you can think of some other great things to put in the paper to make it more realistic or to make it more fun, please let me know in the comments. If you have anything you want to see me do again or explain again, please let me know. And as always, I really appreciate your support. I appreciate you being here. If you know anyone else that would enjoy these types of videos, please share them. And if you're new here, I would love to have you stay. This is my home, and everyone that comes is welcome, and I hope you decide to stay a while. So we'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.